I want to say welcome. I am so excited to be here with you all today. We were so happy that we were able to pull something together virtually for Black History Month and the next few DAC events, diversity awareness events that we have. I'm so hoping that we'll be able to do them virtually, and then soon that we'll be able to all be back together again. I am going to take a moment of personal privilege and say welcome, not only to each of you, but to my dear personal friends, the Right Reverend Pastor Helen Ford. Love you. Um, I am so honored today to have what I consider an icon in our midst. But let me do the preliminaries first and get protocol established. The first thing I want to do is say not only thank you to you, but especially thank you to the leadership team members who are here. And I have a list of them, but I see a couple that are not on the list that are here. So thank you for joining us, Walt Banks. Mr. Bolarski is scheduled to be here. Cheryl McBride, Tony Cunningham.
I'm
I think
barely
I
hear it.
saw Tony. Hey, Tony. Gary
Oh,
Basinger.
it's my headphones too. I have to listen through my.
Uh-oh, somebody said something. David Warm, and uh, Dino DeLeo. And then I will also give a special shout out to everyone who is involved in customer operations, because when I tell you they wore me out about getting these things back on board, I don't know if we would be having one if not for customer operations, like really tanning my behind about getting these things going again. I see Tiffany. Tiffany, that's you. So thank y'all for staying on our case, and I am so glad we were able to make it work. Um, can everybody hear me? I do hear someone saying they don't have sound. Okay. We do have an IT professional on the line. I'm looking at Kirk. So I don't know, Kirk. Somebody doesn't have sound. I don't know what to tell them to do. So the other thing I wanted to do, it is my pleasure and my honor to introduce to some and present to others our speaker of the hour. And I will just say this before I read her short bio. I'm going to get fussed at because she told me to be brief. Be brief, young woman, be brief. I'm making a lot of church references for the church folks out there so y'all can giggle below your breath. My father is a preacher, so I can't help it. Um, uh-oh. Oh, someone in the chat is saying if you can't hear, make sure that you've allowed Zoom to have be through your computer speakers. So I thought that was me. But I want to just say I am honored to be able to sit at the feet of our speaker whenever I so choose. But I am just so grateful that she allowed access for each of us to be under her wisdom. In our community, she is considered an esteemed elder, and not an elder as a pastor of a church, but an elder as a wise counsel. So she will give us her musings today, her thoughts on all manner of things. But she's also a gifted storyteller. And that is the part that I think she started for us a couple of years ago, and we never got to hear the ending. So we invited her back so that she can continue on with the storytelling for us. Professionally, I want you to know she's not gifted in those rights. Professionally, she is trained in the medical field. She's a registered nurse. She was a professor of nursing at Santa Fe Community College. She is the founding member of the Cotton Club Museum and Cultural Center, and really the driving force behind that, not only that building, but that organization and the revitalization of that Spring Hill neighborhood. So I could go on, and I did not read her bio at all. That is just coming from my heart. And I know she is going to tell me that her smile is telling me, shut up, Yvette. So what I'm going to do now is shut up, Yvette. But before we bring to your front to have her come in her very own way, I'm going to play a quick clip from her and her sisters. The third thing that I didn't say that I really wanted to say is that there are a couple gospel family gospel groups that are legendary to Gainesville. My husband's aunts, the Simmons sisters, are one of them, but one of the others are the Washington sisters. So they were very sought after and still are. And so I'm gonna play a little something from the Washington sisters. And then as soon as that is over, the next voice you will hear is none other than Miss Vivian Filer. So let me see if I can share my screen. And put that up for you all. I had it up. There it is. So let me. For some reason, I was joking about somebody else, but I'm gonna tell you, I might need technical assistance. I do have it open. I see it when I'm not sharing it, but when I hit share, there it is. Whew. It takes more than a paycheck for my loved ones and family. It takes more than a paycheck for my loved ones and family. Don't you know it takes more than a paycheck for my loved ones and family. It takes more than a paycheck for my loved ones and family. I bring home asbestosis and silicosis and brown lung like lung disease, and the radiation hits the children before they really been. And that's why it takes more than a paycheck for my loved ones and family. It takes more than a paycheck for my loved ones and family. I wanted more pay, but what I got here today is more than I bargained for. When I walk through that door, I bring home asbestosis and silicosis, round lung like lung disease, and the radiation hits the children before they really been. And that's why it takes more than a paycheck for my loved ones and family. It takes more than a paycheck for my loved ones and family. Well, now what has been the fear? Well, it's important that you know that with every job there is the fear of that disease will take its toll. If not disease, then injury. Well, my Lord, may befall your lot. And if not injury, then stress. It's going to tie you up in knots. That's why it takes more than a paycheck for my loved ones and family. It takes more than a paycheck for my loved ones and family. I bring home asbestosis and silicosis and round lung like lung disease, and the radiation hits the children before they really been conceived. That's why it takes more than a paycheck for my loved ones and family. Don't you know it takes more than a paycheck for my loved ones and family.
Good
Miss
morning.
Vivian.
Good morning. Good morning. I have to smile because I see some special faces that I invited as well. And so thank you, thank you, thank you. When you start talking about preaching, my pastor smiles with that. So she knows what you're talking about. But let me thank you at GRU for inviting me back again to share with you because, you know, those sisters that you just saw, we were singing at the Women's Liberation Convention. Actually, it was their 20 people year celebration. We're singing about a song that, as you can tell, was talking about the environment and the situation that we're in. It's a Sweetheart in the Rock song. It takes more than a paycheck. Sarah was the leader, and Karen was the high voice. and the cough was mine. I was in the middle. So they let me do that. That's just about the end of my leaving with the sisters. But I wanted to let them know how much I appreciate them letting me use this little introduction to being here today. Now listen, Black History Month is intended that we might celebrate the things that we know about Black history. What we don't know will fill volumes because when the history books were written, we know we were not written into the books except at the convenience of the people who wrote the books, and those people were not us. So what I always teach is that we study event history. A Black event, the Emancipation Proclamation was an event. Dr. Martin Luther King and the Civil Rights Movement was an event, but history started when we were stolen from our land and brought to America. Our history started when we landed on these shores, but it didn't hit the history books in those ways. Conveniently, it was placed in the history book as it was needed to pronounce the gravity of what was being achieved, not by the ones who were helping to achieve it. I always want to make that real clear because I think one of the things that we do is spend all year going about our business. Then in February, everybody crowds into a meeting or a program or go online or do something. The history is too important for us to just take a month to say, I'm going to learn Black history. One of the main things about that is it's too much to learn in a month. Another piece to that is that a lot of it has not been written because it's in the mind of our elders and other places that have not been uncovered. So it is not patterned in day by day history as it needs to be done. I know that there are people working on that, but I just want to make sure that you've heard me speak. You hear me say that the history is very broad, it's beautiful, it's reconciling, it's strength building, it's powerful, it's empowering, it's all of those things because of the sacrifices that were made by African Americans to make America what it is today. Before I go into a story though, I just want to tell you one other thing because I'm fighting for that right now, along with 30 other museums along the entire coast of Florida. We're fighting to make May 20th a realistic celebration for the day that Florida was emancipated. We're not on Juneteenth. Juneteenth is when Galveston, Texas was emancipated. So all over the United States, we have celebrated the 19th because we have taken it on as the last day that an enslaved person heard they were free. So the last being freed means that we were all free now. That in itself is not true. When Texas was free, there were still two other states. Now, Texas was the last of the Confederate states to receive the Emancipation Proclamation, but there was two more states still a month or two later who found out that they were actually set free. So that piece of history said, that's the way I want you to pass it on. The Cotton Club Museum and Cultural Center will be celebrating May 20th. We're actually going to do it on the 22nd because the 20th is actually during the week and we want to choose a Saturday. Want to let you know we will still celebrate June 19th. It hasn't lost its fervor. It's just, it must not be thought of as Florida's Day. And there's a legislative push to make the 19th Florida's Emancipation Day. You must fight against that because it's unfair, it's untrue, and it's one more way to put forth incorrect African American history. Now that you've heard all that, you might be ready for a story. And I'm going to treat you like I do my little 4 and 5, 6th graders when I go into the classroom and they're all sitting around in front of me. I can just see it. You know, sometimes I'd have 100, 150, all those little bright eyes looking up, waiting, anticipating a story. So what I do is take poems and turn them into story form. I have not written a thing. I'm reading other people's work, and I always want to make that clear because I want you to look at these writers. It's your work too. Paul Laurence Dunbar, Langston Hughes, County Cullen, James Weldon Johnson, that they are the writers that I love to do their work. Some of the work that I do will be told in African American folk language. And I always explain that to the children because I don't want any child to feel that this is a put down to them, nor do I want them to hear it and not understand it. So here's what you need to know now. When the first enslaved people were brought on shore here in America and placed on plantations, they came from 6 countries from the continent of Africa. 6 countries. All 6 had their own language. When they arrived on the shores here and the plantation owner spoke to them, they heard the 7th language. Now these people who are not sent to school, who do not know anything about reading in American and English, have to devise a way to speak together. So they looked between the languages that they had, the 6 that they brought with them, and they found the common sounds. There are many of them, but I'm going to use one to call your attention to what it sounds like. And I do this with the children and they go, aha, well, it's the TH sound. All of those languages were absent. They did not have a TH sound, none of those 6, but they all substituted the same sound for the TH, and that sound was D. So, does that make sense now? Dat, D's, dem. And when the TH was on the end of the word, they dropped it off and used an F. I've been in an audience of 600 people. If I use this particular illustration and I find the person in the audience and I see their hand up, I'll say, take both your hands down. And man, they drop their hands. They drop their hands just like I'm their boss because there's power in that language, both my mouth. So that's one way I'm going to illustrate the sound to you. I love doing African American folk language. I don't feel bad to hear it because it connects me to my heritage. It is my heritage. I am not ashamed of that. I tell the children though, you must learn standard English. You must speak it correctly. You must write it because that shows that you have an education into the general language of the world and the America that you live in. But if grandma says dad and dem, don't feel like you're a lost soul because you are you are you all having trouble with me? Because my system is saying low, it shouldn't audio. Is it okay? If anybody has a problem, they can put their hand up in the reaction. So I want to do a story for you now. And I always start when I do the children with a lullaby. This is about plantation time. And the lady in the big house, African-American woman, the mammy they called her, is taking care of the little plantation owner's son and sending him out to play. Now, in our Black culture, way back from history till now, the old folks tease the children with what they tell them. And the children take it on as teasing so they know they're not afraid of what they hear. So here this little boy comes in and gets ready for his nap. And the mammy tells him, bedtime come for little boy. Oh, little lamb, you too tired out to make a noise. Poor little lamb, you're gonna have tomorrow's show. Yes, you told me that before. Now don't you fool me, child, no more. Oh, little lamb, you've been bad the live long day. Oh, little lamb, you've been throwing stones and running away. Poor little lamb. My, but you's a running. Wow, you look just like some poor folks' child. I'm gonna whoop you out a while. Oh, little lamb, just can't hold your head up straight. Poor little lamb, you hadn't ought to played so late. Poor little lamb, mama don't know what she'd do if the chillins was all like you. You's a caution now for true. Poor little lamb, lay your head down on my lap. Poor little lamb, you ought to have one right good slap, poor little lamb. You've been running around a heap. Shut them eyes now. Don't you peek. There now. There now. Go to sleep. Oh, little lamb. Isn't that beautiful? Now that was Paul Laurence Dunbar, and I always have to make myself get away from Paul Laurence Dunbar because I truly love his work. The book that I have, that you can see here, it was first printed in 1903, I believe. This edition that I have is a collection item, and it was published in 1945. But I hold on to it for dear life because I love the work that's in it. The next piece that I'm going to do for you is called Scam. And this is about a little boy who, well, you're going to figure it out, but Scamp kind of just was in a lot of trouble sometimes. So it says, but he understood where his loving was coming from. It's all about being a mommy. Ain't it kind of nice to have a mama when you kind of tired out with playing in the meadow and running round about till it makes you mighty hungry and your nose get to know what that smell is that's coming from the open cabin door. She wash your face and make your place and you as hungry as a tramp. Then it's eat your supper right away, you starving little scamp. When you was all full of bread and bacon and there ain't nothing else to eat and the molasses that are sticking to your face is kind of sweet, don't you think it's kind of pleasing for to have somebody near that'll wash your face and kiss you or they lift you from your chair? To smile so sweet and wash your feet and leave them cool and damp. Then it's come on, let me undress you now, you lazy little scamp. Don't your eyes get kind of heavy and your lips get awful slack? And there's something kind of weakening in the backbone of your back. Don't your knees feel kind of trembling and your head goes bobbing round? When you say yo now I lays mean, you was a snowing on the down. She kiss your nose, she kiss your toes, and then turn out the lamp. Then it's creeping to your trundle bed, you sleepy little scamp. Now that's love, that's mother love. And I do that on purpose because what you have to realize is this mother who has had to love up and give mothering all day in the big house still had her little family to go to and mother. But she gave that nurturing mother love to both families. And that's what I like for the kids to take away. That is the kind of love that I grew up knowing. Now, I always like, for the fourth graders, I always like to do this. And so I'm moving you up now to the fourth grade. And this one is about something you all don't know about playing hooky from school. I know nobody on this call knows about that. It's called wading in the creek. And for those of you who are so sophisticated, the creek is the creek, you know, that little stream of water that's running through down by the branch that you can just put your feet into. That's what this is about. Days get warmer and warmer. School gets mighty dull. Seems like these here teachers ought to be merciful. Look is wrong, I know it. It ain't no gentleman's trick, but the air is a calling. Come on to the creek. There the water is gurgling over shining stones. Just this very singing seems to soothe your bones. Go on. What's the use of waiting? Go on good and quick. Ain't no fun like this here waiting in the creek. What's that jaybird saying? Better shut your head. First thing you know, you're going to be laying there dead. Jaybird's such a tattler. Just seemed just like his trick to tell on folks down here wading in the creek. Willow bough bending, hiding of the sky, waving kind of friendly as the winds go by. Elm tree, shining dark and green and thick, seems to say, I see you down there wading in the creek. But the trees don't chatter. They just look inside, like it's kind of peaceful they being nigh. And you think your master that they trunk is thick when your mama finds you down there wading in the creek, then you run behind it like you scared to death. Mama come flying, clean there out of breath, but she sits down kind of gentle and she drags her stick. And first thing, there's your mama waiting in the creek. Isn't that cute? Isn't that cute? I just love it. Now, another piece that I do that on a serious nature that I don't necessarily do for the children, I'm very selective in what I do for the children because if they don't understand it and can't understand my explanation of it, they're not ready for it. I have to wait until they're more adult. But I want to do it for you because I think you may have moved on up into adulthood. What do you think? If you disagree, you can let me know and I'll pass this on and wait on some more grown-ups to come along. But while I'm finding it in my book, it's called The Unsung Heroes. And the reason that it's important is because people need to know that there were African Americans that fought for their freedom when they weren't even allowed to do very much to help themselves and everything was taken away from them. But they had no fear, as you would hear this piece say, of fighting for their freedom. So this says that a song for the unsung heroes who rose in the country's need when the land of the free was threatened by the slavers' cruel greed. The men who came from the cornfield, who came from the plow and the flail, who rallied round when they heard the sound of the mighty men of the rail. They laid them down in the valley. They laid them down in the wood, and the world looked on at the work they did and whispered, "It is good." They fought their way on the hillsides. They fought their way in the glen, and God looked down on their sinews brown and said, "I have made them men." They went to the blue lines gladly, and the blue lines took them in, and the men who saw their musket fire saw none of their dusky skin. The gray lines rose and melted beneath their scatching showers, and they said, "'Tis true, they have forced to do these old slave boys of ours." All Wagner saw their glory, and Pillow knew their blood that poured on a nation's altar a sacrificial flood. Port Hudson heard their war cry that smote its smoke-filled air, and the old free fires of their savage sires again were kindled there. They laid them down for the rivers, the green and valleys, Jim, and the song of the thunderous cannon was their sole requiem, and the great smoke wreath that mingled its hue with the dusky cloud was a flag that furled over a saddened world, and the sheet that made their shroud. Almighty God of the battle, who held them in thy hand, who gave them strength through the whole day's length to fight for their native land. They're lying dead on the hillsides. They're lying dead on the plain. And we have not fire to smite the lyre or sing them one brief strain. Give thou some seer the power to sing them in their might, the men who feared the master's whip, but did not fear the fight, that he may tell of their virtues as minstrels did of old, till the pride of face and the hate of race grows obsolete and cold. A song for the unsung heroes who stood the awful test when the humblest host that the world could boast went forth to meet the best. A song for the unsung heroes who fell on the bloody sod who fought their way from night till day and then struggled up to God. That one's always hard for me. That one's always very, very hard for me. I identify so much with the struggle that my forefathers must have gone through just to get us to where we are today. And I think that's real. And in my heart, it is very real. Let me leave Paul Laurence Dunbar because I could do this book all day long, but I want to do Langston Hughes piece about the rivers. I know that you probably have heard it before, but it is one of my favorite pieces. Not very long, but it is, if you just give it your heart, you will hear what it's telling you. And it says, it's called The Negro Speaks of Rivers. I've known rivers. I've known rivers ancient as the world and older than the flow of human blood in human veins. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. I bathed in the Euphrates when dawns were young. I built my hut near the Congo and it lulled me to sleep. I looked upon the Nile and raised the pyramids above it. I heard the singing of the Mississippi when Abe Lincoln went down to New Orleans, and I've seen its muddy bosom turn all golden in the sunset. I've known rivers, ancient, dusky rivers. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. Isn't that's invigorating? If you guys have to forgive the little innuendos I do in between. I've been doing this over 60 years, and I truly do it for me, probably more than for anybody else. But let me do a fun one now. Everybody, if I don't do this one, I'll get a call saying, you didn't do when Melinda sings. But I'm back to Paul Laurence Dunbar. I don't get away from him very often. Melinda is on the plantation. I think of Mahalia Jackson, and she has this gorgeous voice, which I wish I had. I honor the fact I do not have a gorgeous voice. I love to hear gorgeous voices, though. And I imagine that this lady had a gorgeous voice. But the plantation owner's daughter was trying to get there. So she's gone off to music school and she's gotten the papers and the notes and all of that. And she's trying to sing. And I tell you, the writer, it has a little word for her. And it says, go away and quit that noise, Miss Lucy. Put that music book away. If you practice till you grade, you can't start no notes of flying like the ones that rants and range from the kitchen to the big woods when Melinda sings. You ain't got the natural organ for to make the sound come right. You ain't got the turns and twistings for to make it sweet and light. I tell you one thing now, Miss Lucy, and I'm telling you for truth. When it comes to rare right singing, it ain't no easy thing to do. Easy enough for folks to holler, looking at the lines and dots where no one can sense it, and the tune comes in spots. But for rare melodious singing that just strikes your heart and clangs, just you sit and listen with me when Melinda sings. Ain't you never heard Melinda? Well, blessed soul, take up the cross. Look here, honey, now ain't you joking? Well, you just don't know what you lost. You ought to hear that gal a wobbling. Robins, larks, and all them things hash they mouth and hides they faces when Melinda sings. Fiddling man just starts his fiddling, lays his fiddle on the shelf. Mockingbird quit trying to whistle cause he just so ashamed of himself. Folks are playing on the banjo, drops their fingers on the string. Bless his soul forgets to move them when Melinda sings. Who that said that I'm a praiser with the master never counts? Here's your mouth. I hear that music as it rises up and mounts, floating by the hills and valleys way above this barren sod till it makes its way in glory to the very gates of God. Oh, it's sweeter than the music of an educated band. And it's dearer than the battle cry of triumphs in the land. It seems holier than evening when the solemn church bells ring as I sit and calmly listen when Melinda sings. Elsa, stop that bacon. Mandy, make that child keep still. Don't you hear the echoes calling from the valleys to the hill? Let me listen. Oh, I can hear it through the brush of angels' wings, soft, sweet, swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. When Melinda sings. Thank you. Now, in graduations, and we're going to get there pretty soon, for children, I always like for them to know that mothers have been willing to do the old-fashioned things. I talk about the wash pot and where is my baby? Where is Yvette? I was your grandma raised her. She knows about the big black wash pot in the backyard. She knows about putting a fire under the wash pot and grandma's lye soap. My grandma made it in Hawthorne because my mother took the oil from the deep fryer where she worked, and my grandma took a can of lye and made the soap. And she put that soap in that water. That was some strong soap. It would clean your clothes and your mind and anything else that you said it to. That was some strong stuff. And it was gray and brown, and you cut off a chunk and put it in the wash tub. And then those white clothes that were all cotton would go in there. Then with a stick, because we had no hot water, would make a fire under there. Then we pick those clothes up. They go in the first wash tub where they're going to be rubbed, and into the next tub where they're going to be rinsed, and the next tub where they're going to be rinsed, and maybe the last one will have some bluing in it. And then we hung them up to dry. And after they dried, we take those clothes and bring them in, all cotton, and take that red and white box of Argo starch, put it in a pot and boil it until it became a thick bluish tinged gump. We thin that out with some water and wet those clothes up again with the starch. Take them back to the line to hang them up. And when they dry the second time, we bring them in the house and get a Coca-Cola bottle with the top, make holes in the Coca-Cola bottle, fill that bottle with water, sprinkle each one of those dry pieces that we've gotten down with that water, put them in a little bowl, stick them in a basket, cover it with a towel, and take out the smoothing irons and iron all night Wednesday night. That's what we did at my house. And the reason I say this because my mother, in order to make ends meet, always worked, but we took in what they call bundles.
We need to learn, get some.
I'm sorry, Miss Vivian, you're muted.
Oh, I'm
Sorry,
so sorry. Did I
sorry
mute
about that.
myself?
No,
Okay.
ma'am. I think
How
they
long
muted
how long
all.
I've been muted? You want me to start at the beginning? Oh, no.
That's what you did
Anyway,
at your
no,
house.
don't worry about it. I don't think the story is that important. The whole idea is that our parents took in washing and ironing to get enough money to send us to school, but they were willing to do that. In this story about a mother that was willing to do whatever it took to send her son off to college, not 4 years, longer, because since they were sharecropping, he'd have to come on part of the year to help with the sharecropping. So there was no such thing as 4 years. It's called Bring That College Home. At one time when I was still teaching, I had done this piece for every college president in Florida because every time a new one came to campus, I had to go do this piece. This is wise. Listen to it. I've been sending you to college now for 6 or 7 years. Since the morning that you left me, I've been shedding bitter tears. But I thought of that old saying, sunshine comes behind the storm. So my young man, when you finish, you just bring that college home. I've been shivering by the wash tub and I've been sweating in the field. Many times I had to borrow and I almost had to steal. But I held on to my patience. Beat them soap suds into foam. All the time, my heart was saying, he's going to bring that college home. I got food enough for him, plenty of clothes to keep me warm. So you trot on out to college. Then next June, you bring it home. Don't you mind these folks here talking? They ain't half as good as you. And they's bound to nag at good folks because that's all they knows how to do. So next spring, when the dogwoods blossom and the bees begin to swarm, I'll be waiting for to see you when you bring that college home. I don't mean bring home the buildings or to wreck them good folks' place. Bring home Christian education and that high-tone college grace. You just grab them fastest habits, hold them tight through wind and storm. Then when you get your diploma, take them all and bring them home. Show the folks here that you got them by the speeches that you make, by the specs that you be wearing, and the way your coattails shape. But don't get above the people. Settle down and don't you roam. Be a light in your own village. Be a college here at home. Isn't that powerful? We want our children. That's so powerful. And so I always try to include that. And Yvette, how am I doing with time?
You are doing good. You have about another 15 minutes or 20 minutes. I
Okay,
don't know if you want to leave
okay,
time for questions.
okay. All right, I'll leave time for questions. I haven't done one about the fathers though, and I think they are in the African American family left out too much. I know of so many wonderful, heartwarming, hair combing, braiding, cooking, washing kind of daddies that were in my neighborhood, and certainly my own daddy, who my daddy could stir up something that you could never even dream of, but it would always be good. And in the olden days, when we had a fireplace, he'd put the sweet potatoes in the ashes and let them cook. When he made his own syrup, he would make us, we'd have syrup cakes and syrup water to drink, because that was our little treat. It might be raining outside, he'd tell us stories, and those were the treats. But we don't talk enough about like fathers. And this is about a dad who's been working in the field all day. And you might have guessed, yes, I'm back to Polar's Dunbar. But then when I would go into a classroom, always all over the state and beyond, if there was a little kid sitting by the teacher's leg, it was probably a little black boy who was in trouble. And I did not want to leave that room until he felt good about himself. So I would find out his name before I started. And when I got to this part, I always made it my last piece, I would invite him up to be with me. And it's called Little Brown Baby. I'd sit him on my lap, can't do that anymore, and do this piece for him. So the last guy who met me in the store is in his, I don't know, 50s now, at least. He said, "Oh, Miss Fowler, I was your little brown baby." You know, that's been years. Jeramingo is the only kid who ever answered me back when he was about 8. He answered, I had to laugh at that because it was in the middle of the presentation. But it goes like this. Think about it. Dad has been working in the field all day in his coveralls. His kids been playing in the yard all day in the dirt because we didn't have grass. That's what we had. So his kids dirty too. He walks up and he says, "Little brown baby with sparkling eyes, come to your papa," and sat on his knee. "What you been doing, so? Making mud pies? Look at that beard. You is as dirty as me. And look at that mouth. That's molasses, I bet. Bees gonna catch you and eat you up yet, being so sticky and sweet. Goodness land. Little brown baby with the sparkling eyes. Who's Papa's darling and who's Papa's child? who is it all the day, never once tries to be cross or once loses that smile. Where did you get them teeth? And where did that nipple come from in your chin? Papa don't know you. I believe you's a tramp. Mama, this year's some more straggler got in. Let's throw him under door in the sand. Let's get him way to the big booger man. Booger man, booger man. Here's a bad boy you can have for to eat. I know you's hanging around out there by that door. And Mama and Papa don't want him no more. There now. I thought you'd hug me up close. You go back, old booger. You can't have this boy. He ain't no tramp, nor no straggler, of course. He's Papa's partner and playmate and joy. Come on to your pallet now. Come take your rest. I wish you could always know ease and clear skies. Wish you could stay just a child on my breast, my little brown baby with the sparkling eyes. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't it just so beautiful? I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm trying now. I haven't done anything from Eloise Greenfield because all of the authors I've done so far are dead authors. But Eloise Greenfield is alive and well, and she writes a lot of children's books. She wrote a book that I recommend for little kids. It's called Honey, I Love. Last time I give you one for your grandbaby. And it is filled with love, but one of the pieces in there tells about the kind of love. And I always have the children do this with me. I have them mimic my actions and repeat what I say. And I'm going to do it for you without making you do that since we are on Zoom. But it says, love don't mean all that kissing like on television. Love means daddy saying, keep your mama company till I get back, and me doing it. And that's the kind of love that this entire book is filled with. So the title piece is called Honey, I Love, and I'm going to do that one. Honey, I love. I love a lot of things, a whole lot of things, like my cousin comes to visit, and you know he's from the South, because every word he says just kind of slides out of his mouth. I love the way he whistles and I love the way he walks. But honey, let me tell you, I love the way he talks. I love the way my cousin talks. And the day is hot and icky and my clothes stick to my skin. Mr. Davis turns the water hose on and we all jump right in. The water stings my stomach and it feels so nice and cool. Honey, let me tell you, I love a flying pool. And honey, Renee comes out to visit and brings her doll without a dress. And I make a dress out of paper. And that doll sure looks a mess. I laugh so loud and long and hard, the doll falls to the ground. Honey, let me tell you, I love the laughing sound. I love to make the laughing sound. And we're going down the country road where all the folks like to meet. I'm looking out the window at the cows and trees outside. Honey, let me tell you, I love to take a ride. I love to take a family ride. And it's not so late at night, but I'm still laying in my bed. At least I need my rest. At least that's what my mama said. She told me not to cry because she don't want to hear a peep. Honey, let me tell you, I don't love to go to sleep, but I love a lot of things. And honey, I love you too. Isn't that beautiful? The kids say, oh, Miss Filer, you did that. I said, oh yeah, Opie can do that too. I love you too. Now that book is filled with other things like riding on a train and music, but it's all about really real love that you want your children to know about. And I think now I will just stop for questions and so I can give answers if you have them. But if you will unmic yourself and ask one at a time, if not, I will close out with another piece. And Yvette can tell us when we're at the end of our time.
Sure. The one question that came up in the chat so far, Miss Vivian, is what is the name of the Paul Laurence Dunbar book that you've been reading from?
Well, you won't be able to find it, but you can go online. Complete Poems of Paul Laurence Dunbar, and that's Paul Laurence, Lawrence Dunbar. Now, he wrote another shorter, they compiled a shorter version because his book is broken up into different lyrics. So Lyrics of Lowly Life is a book all by itself. You might also Google that on Amazon and see Lyrics of Lowly Life, Paul Laurence Dunbar. If you're able to find the complete works, that's what this book is. It's gotten to be a little hard to find, but I sure think you should look for it. And of course, Langston Hughes, who just had a birthday on February 1, was a prolific writer, and he wrote The Negro Mother. He wrote Rivers. And I didn't do anything from our writer in Jacksonville, who, he and his brother wrote the Negro National Anthem. But I always do creation. It's rather long, but that's one of the things that James Weldon Johnson wrote, along with his brother writing with every voice and sing. Long answer, but I want you to have all the information you want.
There's also something in the chat, and I'm going to ask Kirk to just unmic and ask that question, so that you can share in that with. I know the answer, but I'm going to let you answer it.
Well, if you know the answer, you could have just made it quick. Miss Filer, my name's Kirk, and I went to Hawthorne High School.
And my husband taught you.
Is that right? Delano Filer. He was a mean man.
Everybody said that. He would hit you on your fingers with the ruler.
Yes, ma'am.
That's
he taught
right.
me how to apply for jobs.
Yes.
And then I've used that with young people today. I teach that skill when I get a chance. Years later, I worked with another Delano Filer at Gainesville Police Department.
Oh, now that was my nephew. No, you worked with Robert Filer at the Gainesville Police.
Okay, Robert Filer.
That was my nephew, my husband's brother's son.
Yes, ma'am. So I just wanted to see if there was a tie there.
Yeah, there
I'm glad
is.
you don't have a ruler.
Yeah, well, now I taught nursing. I taught anti-ruler. See, my husband's on the other end, and I taught students that came from Hawthorne High School, so I know all the stories.
Wonderful.
But every one of them said they were good typists. So, what can I say?
Thank you for sharing your lunch with us today.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else?
Mrs. Filer?
Yes.
My name's Holly Merton. I'm just curious, are you by chance related to Phyllis Filer?
I'm Phyllis's niece. She was married to Robert. I'm Phyllis's aunt. She was married to Robert.
Oh, okay. I worked with her. She's a very lovely lady.
Yes, she is. When I can keep her in hand, she's a very lovely lady. And this is our pastor. She pastors both of us, Reverend Helen Johnson Ford. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Miss Vivian, someone wants to know what inspired you to go into storytelling, and they also said that you are awesome.
Oh, I love it. I'll tell you what inspired me, a Black teacher. Principal Aquin Jones' wife, Mrs. Frederica Jones, taught English. Across in that Aquin Jones building, in her English class in the 9th grade. She taught Shakespeare one week and African-American prose and poetry the next week. And I fell in love with it. So she gave us a book list of 15 books. It didn't matter what they were. I read 15 books. And I worked every day after school, but I loved prose and poetry. But once she discovered that I loved it, I became the representative. WRUF gave us 15 minutes of airtime during Black History Week. You realize this is in 1953, maybe 54. And they always let me go to do the pieces. But back in those days, English teachers didn't let you stand up and recite words. You had to put expression in what you were doing. Churches did not let you stand up in front of a congregation and recite words. And heavens, Betsy, you certainly weren't going to read them. You had to be able to put some expression in it. That's what we did. And I give her all the credit, along with my Sunday school teachers, Miss Marie Spivey, Old Stover's grandmother, and all of those who nurtured me into this. And, you know, I don't know if you've been figured out, but I love to talk. So I love the feeling. Here's what I feel, and hopefully it separates me. I love hearing the old folks give us pearls of wisdom. They didn't do it in an angry way. They didn't do it in a haughty way. They would say, baby, come here, let me tell you. And those are the things that I heard from these women that impressed me. And that's what I want to portray in the work that I do. So thank you for the question. Is there anywhere we can find your storytelling? You know? I'm not on YouTube. People will capture it and put it on YouTube, and I don't intend for them to do that. Here's what I've done. I don't think I have any. Well, here's what I have: one CD that we have one that, and Pastor Ford, that we had on sale as a fundraiser for the Cotton Club Museum. It has some of my stories on it, and I think we can probably reproduce it. But I really need to go in the studio before I get old. And probably record another one. So thanks for asking, and I think I'll do that.
I'm gonna jump in too. She has a TED Talk, y'all. Y'all can Google her. She has a TED Talk.
Lessons
She's being
from my
very
sidewalk.
modest.
Lessons from my sidewalk is TED Talk. Oh, well, you know, it's not being modest. I didn't do this. Most of what's on TV and on Google and all that was never my intention. In fact, I was upset. Several things are on there that I told people, do not put that on Google. I mean, I'm not at my best on a lot of those things, but you know, in the virtual world, you just don't know where you're going to end up these days. The things I'm most proud of, though, is being able to tell the truth, the facts about African-American history, because when I die, I don't want people to quote incorrect information that they got from me. And I think we're in a world now where everybody seems to want to know. I think America is trying to know. I think new strides are being made to learn these things. So that's why I want to go forth with the truth as best I can. Is there another question? Oh, thank you.
I have a question right quick. I know we don't have very much time, but can you give just a brief synopsis of how you remember May 20th? I don't hear very many people talk about May 20th, but my grandmother made us celebrate it, and she told her stories as far as, you know, May 20th for them, where they celebrated all day. Nobody went to work. It was just one big celebration all day, no matter what day it fell on.
Yes, and that is true of African Americans all over Florida. I've heard Pastor Ford mention that. I've heard others. Here's what, when they integrated schools, they got rid of the Black celebrations. But all over Florida now, we're bringing that back. I have a collection of articles written back from the 1800s of little stories of how people celebrated May 20th. 2 years ago, some of us from the Cotton Club Museum went to Tallahassee to hear the Emancipation Proclamation read for the 150th anniversary of the Emancipation in Florida. And you can have that. If you will, make sure Yvette can get in touch with you. I will send out the website for FARPAN, Florida African American Heritage Preservation Network. It's led by Ms. Althenice Barnes, the historian, who has made sure that this celebration is alive and well. And she has many YouTube presentations with experts who are talking about it, and they talk about real life situations of celebrations and include some articles. So thanks for the question. It's alive and well. We're going to bring it back.
Yeah, I didn't really have a question. I wanted to say thank you for your time, for sharing your time and your passion with us. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your comment.
Hi, Vivian. This is Rick Hutton. I used to work with my wife, Jean Hutton. So she says hello.
I did. Please say hello to Jean.
I will. She always speaks so highly of you, and I'm really happy to be here. And thank you very much for your time today.
Well, thank you. I sure enjoy working with her. Those are good days. Yes. Okay. When you've been around as long as I have, you never know who you're going to run into. But I'm proud to still be here. I'm trying to make sure that I stay a little longer. My pastor prays up for that too. She calls us her young people at the church. I love you. Okay. If that's it, I thank you for your time.
So, Ms. Vivian, as we close, I just want to say on behalf of all of us at GRU, first, this was the largest diversity awareness event that we've ever had.
Wow.
We had at the
Wow.
top, we had 100 people here,
Wow.
and it's still at 94. So that is a testament to you, definitely.
Oh,
Definitely not me, but to you.
thank you.
So we just want to say thank you. I also want to acknowledge all of our diversity awareness members. I can't call them name by name, but there are several on here, and we are committed to doing these virtually until we can get back in person. The last couple quick announcements will be, I'm so glad that May 20th came up, Florida Emancipation Day, because Miss Vivian didn't say this, but she is going to be sitting on a committee with our EO, our Office of Equity and Inclusion, formerly known as the EO office. We are hosting a celebration that office is hosting a celebration this year, and it's called Journey to Juneteenth. So we're actually going to start on May 20th, which is the Florida Emancipation Day. And that is fully in, because when we called Miss Vivian to ask her to be on the committee, she sat us down and wrapped our knuckles. So we will have a full month worth of celebration and educational events up to and including June 19th. So with that being said, you should be receiving something from us soon, Ms. Vivian. It was great, nothing but good feedback in the chat. We love you, we honor you. If all hearts and minds are clear, and if no one has any other sayings, I am going to tell y'all, go with love, peace, and power. If nothing else, it's 101. Thank you all so much. Have a blessed day.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
Beautiful.
Thank you, my pastor. Thank you, Ella Marie.
Thank you.
Miss Vivian, if you'll hold back, if any of the DAC members who want to hold back.
Okay, all right.
PJ, Glenn, you can hold back. Mia Key, Pastor, you can hold back if you wanna. Definitely the DAC members. It was so good.
Oh.
I'm gonna stop the recording. But
I was being recorded. I didn't even ask that.
remember, I